Hello. The Divine Code reading for November 12th, pages 315 and 316. We are in the chapter, The Prohibition of Separating Meat from an Animal that is living or in the process of dying, and restrictions on consuming such meat after the animal's death. So we just got done discussing the prohibition of removing meat from a slaughtered animal in a non-kosher environment. A slaughtered animal, while it's in the process of dying, it usually takes a few seconds. Meat that's separated at that point would not be allowed for consumption, and shouldn't be separated anyway because it's not nice. We're now continuing to topic number 3. A more lenient rule applies if an animal was authentically kosher slaughtered for Jewish consumption. First, we identify cases that exclude an animal from being accepted as kosher slaughtered. A. It is a non-kosher species. B. It is a kosher species, but the slaughtering by the Jew is rendered ritually invalid due to an error that was made during the procedure. C. It is a kosher species, but it is disqualified for kosher slaughter while it is still living. For example, if the membranes of the gullet are perforated, or if there's a slit more than half the diameter of the windpipe. A slit across more than half the diameter of the windpipe. And there's a diagram in here showing the windpipe. If the area that a kosher slaughter cut could be made, if either the gullet or the windpipe is loosened and displaced, it is impossible to perform a valid kosher slaughter on an animal that is in one of these conditions. Therefore, as long as it is alive, that is, the heart is still beating, the meat is subject to the prohibition of Aver Mem Akai. Now, these are things that would be known before the slaughter. There's also other issues after the slaughter, but this is before the slaughter or during the slaughter, concerns that would render it as not a properly slaughtered animal, and therefore this allowance would not be accepted for this in these cases. Topic number 4. The leniency applies if a Jew performs kosher slaughter as follows. A. Kosher species of animal that which have split hooves and chew their cud, or a kosher species of fowl, such as a chicken, turkey, or duck. B. For the purpose of Jewish consumption. C. In the Jewish ritual manner of slitting the majority of the gullet and windpipe with an extremely sharp knife. So these are all the rules that are involved in saying that something is a kosher slaughter. It has to be a kosher species. It has to be for the sake of Jewish consumption, which would bring into question, what is the non-Jew doing there, eating a chunk of it or taking off a chunk of it for the purpose of eating? But I guess it's such a nominal amount that he's taken off that it's still the majority of the animals being. The purpose of slaughtering the animals for Jewish consumption. The fact that there's a non-Jew there hungrily wanting to get his first bite in is not part of whether or not it's for Jewish consumption. Is the reason the person is doing it. It has to be done properly according to all the rules of the Jewish slaughter. As soon as the animal has been slaughtered, according to these details, a Jew is permitted to remove flesh from this animal for food, even while it is still convulsing in its death throes. So there's an allowance for the Jew, once the slaughter is made, to remove meat from that animal. The Jew is not required to wait for the heart to stop beating. Now, normally in a slaughterhouse, they do wait. It just doesn't make any sense not to. Plus, it's a good way to get the blood out of the animal. Makes it easier. So this normally doesn't happen, but it's a theoretical possibility. This is because the Torah defines the act of ritual slaughter as the death of the animal. So the animal is considered, once it's ritually slaughtered, to be dead, even though the heart is still beating. However, any commencing of butchering done in this short time that the slaughtered animal is still sensitive to pain is highly discouraged. So it's not proper to take the meat off if the animal might feel the limb being taken off, having its flesh cut. It's not proper to do that, but it's not a Torah violation at that point. It's a let's be nice to animals at that point. Furthermore, it would not be consistent with modern standards of humane treatment in commercial slaughterhouses, which specify that the animal should be surgically insensitive before cuts are made. It has been proven scientifically that a kosher-style cut across the neck is painless to the animal if properly done. If the animal is calm when the slaughter is started, none of the bodily chemicals associated with trauma reflex appear in the blood of the slaughtered animal. On the other hand, the twitching of meat long after the cleaning of the carcass is a result of impulses of muscle cells that have yet to die. Okay, so they're comparing this part here. They're comparing it to the convulsions. An animal might have convulsions after the act has been done to slaughter the animal. The neck has been cut. The animal is still moving about a bit while it's going through its death. After it goes through its death, the heart stops beating. The muscles might still have reflex. That has nothing to do with the animal feeling the pain. It's just a normal thing that muscles do after they die, after the death of the body. It's referred to as rigor mortis. Rigor mortis is not the convulsing its death throes. It's a different thing. This can continue long after the death throes of the animal has ceased and the flesh removed from the carcass. At that stage is not subject to the prohibition of Abraham Mackay. In this case, if a Gentile is acting as an agent or a worker for the Jew. Okay, so the Jew is doing the slaughter. It's a kosher animal. The Jew is doing the proper slaughter for the sake of Jewish consumption. But there's a co-worker there. There's someone he hired to help hold the animal or something. If that co-worker were to take a piece of the meat at that short period of time, that's what this whole thing is about. What happens if he takes the piece of meat during that short period of time? He's a non-Jew. A Jew would be allowed to. So the question is, would a non-Jew be allowed to? He is also permitted to remove flesh, even on his own initiative, from this animal immediately after the Jewish act of kosher slaughter, while the animal is still convulsing. Oh, and also concerning the death throes, it appears based on the Maharshal, as cited below in footnote 78, it's in tomorrow's reading, that if a Gentile is acting as a worker or an agent for a Jew, severs anything from the animal that is slaughtered by the Jew under these conditions, then it is considered as if the Jew himself cut off the meat, and it is therefore immediately permitted for the Gentile to eat from it. On the other hand, if a Jew slaughtered the animal for the purpose that it would be a Gentile, It is considered as if the Gentile himself killed the animal. The same ruling regarding Avraham Mackay applied to it as if it was the Gentile who performed the slaughter. So the difference here is that if it's done for Jewish consumption, and there's a worker there. Now the non-Jew cannot do the slaughter because it would not be considered kosher. But if the non-Jew was a worker doing various things with the slaughter process and did take the meat that's considered for the Jewish consumption, he would be allowed to eat it. He probably shouldn't, but he is allowed to eat it. If the Jew doing the slaughter is doing it for the sake of non-Jewish consumption, then this allowance does not apply. In the Rashba, Rosh, Tur, and Shach Yoredea, chapter 27, based on Tractate Kulin 121b. Rambam, Laws of Kings 9:13, differs to say that if a Jewish slaughter does not make the animal permissible for the use of Gentiles until after the animal stops convulsing, and any meat removed from it during the convulsions is from then on forbidden to Gentiles. So the Rambam disagrees with this other ruling and would say that that it's not permitted. During that short window, the meat would not be permitted, even after the animal dies. The animal has to die first, then the meat can be removed. However, it is forbidden for a Gentile to then consume the flesh until after the kosher slaughtered animal actually dies and stops convulsing, since his flesh is still temporarily forbidden for Jewish consumption because of the restriction based on Leviticus 19:26. This is the basic understanding of the wording in Tractate Kulin 33a and 121b, that a Jew may only feed a Gentile from the animal which he, the Jew, is allowed to eat from that time. So the argument is that the Jew is allowed to eat it, and he's allowed to give it, and therefore he's allowed to give it to the Gentile. That's why the Gentile would be allowed to take this meat and eat it. This restriction is a rabbinical decree. Since the Torah defines kosher slaughtered animal as immediately dead, a Gentile would be able to eat from it while it is still convulsing, if not for the fact that it is forbidden for the Jew during that time, based on the word and the verse of Leviticus 19:26, you shall not eat with the blood. So the Jew is not allowed to eat the meat. He can remove the meat, but he's not allowed to eat the meat while it's going through the convulsing. He can remove the meat while the animal's going through the convulsing. The Jew cannot eat the meat until after the animal died. Therefore, he's not allowed to give the meat to a non-Jew for that he has to follow the same rules regarding giving the meat to the non-Jew. And therefore the non-Jew, the allowance would correspond with what's allowed for the Jew in this case. Among other things, this verse is taken as prohibiting a Jew from eating the flesh while the slaughtered animal's lifeblood is still flowing. That is, the heart is still pumping the blood. But it does not prohibit the removal of flesh. In other words, a Jew is forbidden to eat the meat of a kosher slaughtered animal or bird before it is physically dead. In this situation, a Gentile may only eat the meat from the kosher slaughtered animal, starting from the time it becomes allowed for the Jew to eat the meat. So when the Jew is allowed to eat the meat, and that would be in a kosher slaughter, because if it's not kosher slaughter, Jew would not be allowed to eat the meat. So when the Jew is allowed to eat the meat, then it would be permitted for the non-Jew to eat. Thank you.